When my stepfather told me I wasn't welcome in my own home anymore, the words struck like a knife, leaving me breathless. The room, once filled with the echoes of my mother's laughter, suddenly felt suffocating. I stood there, frozen, barely able to comprehend the cruelty of his words. The house, the place that had once been a sanctuary, felt like a cage. The man I once thought of as family had torn apart everything I held dear, and all I could do was watch as he turned his back, dismissing me like I was nothing. His voice, cold and steady, lingered in the air, a reminder that this was the beginning of something I couldn't undo. The weight of his words pressed down on me, and for a brief moment, I felt as if I were vanishing into thin air, unwanted, abandoned. Yet, amidst the chaos, something inside me sparked, a flicker of defiance. I won't let him destroy me. It hadn't always been like this. When my father passed, my mother remarried, and for a while it seemed like a second chance for all of us. My stepfather had been supportive, kind even, at least that's how it seemed. But when my mother passed too, something shifted in him. Or perhaps it had always been there, and I had been too naive to see it. The cruel remarks started small. "You're too old to be living at home. You're a burden now that she's gone." I brushed them off, but I never imagined it would escalate to this. That night, as I packed my bags, the weight of it all came crashing down. My hands trembled, but I pushed through, folding clothes and gathering the few keepsakes I had left of my mother. Each item, a picture, a letter, a token of her love, felt like a ghost haunting the room. I wanted to scream, to beg for an explanation, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. He had already made up his mind. Confronting him would only give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I bottled up the rage and sorrow, promising myself that I would rise above him. I didn't need him. I could do this on my own. The next day, with nothing but a suitcase and a heart full of hurt, I left. Oh, he didn't even bother to say goodbye. He just acted as if I never existed. I had nowhere to go, no family to lean on. Friends offered their couches, but I couldn't bring myself to burden them. Instead, I spent nights in cheap motels, barely scraping by with the small savings I had. The loneliness was crushing. There were times when I wondered if I had made a mistake by not standing up to him, but deep down, I knew this was the beginning of something bigger. I just didn't know what yet. I threw myself into finding a job, anything that would help me regain some semblance of stability. The rejection emails piled up, each one cutting deeper into my confidence, but eventually I got hired as a server at a small cafe. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. The people there were kind, offering me the sense of belonging I hadn't felt in months. Slowly but surely, I began to rebuild my life from scratch. But as I worked, the bitterness toward my stepfather festered. I didn't just want to move on, I wanted justice. He had taken so much from me, not just the house, but my mother's legacy, my sense of security. I started looking into the legalities of the house, the one my mother had always promised would be mine. She had made it clear this house was my future. But after her death, my stepfather took control. I needed to know how. Late nights were spent poring over documents, sifting through legal jargon, desperately searching for answers. And that's when I discovered it. After my mother passed, my stepfather had contested her will, claiming the house as his own. He had kept it hidden from me, using my grief and naivety to his advantage. The rage I felt was suffocating, but it also lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. With the little money I had, I hired a lawyer to help me fight back. The decision was risky. I didn't have the funds for a lengthy legal battle, but it was my only shot. The process was grueling. My stepfather denied everything, painting himself as the victim and me as the ungrateful child. But I had the evidence. He didn't know what I had on him. As the case dragged on, I saw cracks in his facade. The man who had once seemed so untouchable was starting to crumble. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse for him, I found the smoking gun. A discovery that changed everything. It was a punch to the gut, but also the breakthrough we needed. During a review of the house's legal documents, we found it. My stepfather had falsified signatures, including mine, in an attempt to gain full ownership of the property. When this revelation was presented in court, I saw the panic on his face. His bravado crumbled in an instant. His lawyer fumbled through some convoluted excuse, but it was too late. The evidence was irrefutable. For the first time, I had the upper hand. But the twist didn't stop there. As the investigation continued, we uncovered something even more shocking. My stepfather hadn't just stolen the house, he had drained my mother's savings account, funneling the money into investments under his name. The account had been meant for my future, for security after my mother's death. But he had stolen it all. The betrayal went deeper than I had ever imagined. But it only fueled my determination. I wasn't just fighting for a house anymore. I was fighting for my mother's legacy. When the court ruled in my favor, it was a victory I'll never forget. The house was returned to me, and my stepfather was ordered to repay every penny he had stolen from my mother's account. But perhaps the most satisfying moment was when the judge reprimanded him, calling his actions a blatant abuse of trust. In that moment, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't thought possible. But what happened after the ruling was even more powerful. Returning to the house wasn't just about reclaiming a property. It was about reclaiming everything. My memories. My sense of belonging. As I walked through the front door for the first time in months, the weight of it all hit me. I could almost hear my mother's voice, feel her presence in every room. The house wasn't just a structure, it was a symbol of everything she had fought for. Everything she had left me. As for my stepfather, he lost everything. His house, his reputation, the false image of control he had spent years building. Word got around that he was struggling to pay off the restitution order, forced to sell off his assets just to cover his debts. For someone who had taken so much pride in his power over others, it was a fitting end. In the months that followed, I poured myself into rebuilding, not just the house, but my life. I turned the house into a home again, filling it with love and memories. I created a garden in my mother's memory, planting the flowers she loved, setting up a bench where I could sit and feel connected to her. The pain, the betrayal became a distant memory. What was left was pride. Pride in what I had overcome. Looking back, I realized that my stepfather's cruelty had awoken something in me, a strength I never knew I had. His words, "You're not welcome here anymore," were meant to break me. Instead, they became the catalyst for my transformation. I had reclaimed what was mine. I had stood up for myself. And I had proven that even in the face of betrayal, you can rise again. My mother always told me that home wasn't just a place, it was a feeling. Now, standing in the house she loved so much, surrounded by the memories we shared, I finally understood what she meant. I had found my home again. And this time, no one could ever take it away from me.